welcome back to another week of Art Life. In this week's episode we're going to be talking about varnishes and glazes. So there are many different glazes and varnishes, techniques you can use for your final product with painting. I myself would usually use a very traditional Damar Varnish, stand oil and turpentine mix with the ratio of 1:1:5. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. It's traditionally just to seal the painting. It also gives it a lovely lusciousness, a brilliant shine. It can seal and protect the painting, which is kind of why I do it, just to make sure that my oil paint is as protected as possible for longevity and to prevent damage. In history, when you think about traditional old masters paintings and you think of the really cracked surface, that is old varnish cracking under the weight of the kind of heavy oil paint beneath. And I have bought some experimental aging varnish to see if we can get the same effect with the modern day painting to make it look as old as possible. So the difference for me between glazes and varnish is that when I'm painting I use glazes of oil paint in layers, translucent layers of oil made with adding mediums to the oil to give a beautiful kind of luminescent quality to the light I'm painting. And we have done an episode on mediums recently, so do check that out if you are interested in oil mediums. And as much as I would love to glaze some of my paintings on the beach, it's not very practical, so I think we should head back into the studio and start getting everything ready. So I always make sure my oil paintings are completely dry before I varnish them. Usually I've gotten into the practice of using a Damar varnish, mainly because I like the traditional aspect of it, but there are gloss varnishes, satin varnishes, matte varnishes, so many different options out there. But with the Damar, I mix it with a stand oil and a turpentine. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Mainly because it protects the painting. It makes sure that no dust or smoke or anything over the years will damage the oil itself. We see in modern conservation practices ancient beautiful paintings being revitalized just by clearing the layer of varnish. So I like to think that in varnishing my paintings, I'm making a way for them to be even more immortal. Who knows, in hundreds of years, there might be someone dabbing away at some of the glazes to bring the paintings back to life again. The key thing to do before I start varnishing is to make sure there's no dust or any kind of bits of dirt that's kind of settled onto the painting. It's got to be completely smooth. I need a nice flat, clean brush, which I don't really have at the moment. I need to go shopping, but I found a brush which I think will do the job. I've also got a sample of a still life that was varnished, and you can see the shine on it here. It almost makes it look so much more luscious and glossy and voluptuous almost, compared to another little pair we did. I did this in the still life episode, go check it out if you haven't seen it. And this one hasn't been varnished, and you can see the difference in shine. One of them just hasn't got the same sense of richness and depth with the colour, so hopefully today we can change that. So it is very cold in here, so I'm going to add the Damar varnish just to some warm water for a moment, which just changes the property and viscosity of the Damar slightly better, which means I'll need less terps. The reason we use turpentine and not just a cheap solvent, odourless mineral solvent with the Damar, is, I'm going to read this because I've just always known it, but I've never known exactly why. I knew it was something to do with the kind of the way it binds together. It's also fast drying, which is really helpful. But this research said that we don't just add all of these glazes for some magic optimum kind of optical property. It's because you want to make it for a specific purpose of glazing, making it handle better and discouraging beading and cracking. Which is to say, if we make a kind of bad glaze, it will crack, it won't look beautiful. In making the perfectly right, consistent glaze, we're giving our painting the very best finish we possibly can. And I know some people do make their own Damar varnish, which is possible, but again, using terps or a citrus solvent, basically once the solvent evaporates, you'll be left with a really pure, shiny resin. And that's what we want. We want there to be a really glossy finish to these paintings. As you know, I'm a Michael Harding ambassador, and the Michael Harding website is so helpful because it does give you recipes for making your own glazes and mediums from their products. So I will be using, with my Damar varnish in 1 part and the 5 parts of turpentine, 1 part as well of stand oil, which just really changes everything, makes it extra glossy and luminous. So I will direct a little link to the Michael Harding website at the bottom of the page for anyone who's interested in getting to know a little bit more about the mediums themselves. Also, at the end of this video, we're going to be doing a little experiment. I don't know how it's going to turn out, where we're going to try cracking a painting with aging varnish first and then the cracking varnish to give us an effect of an old master painting. Unfortunately, I don't have anything that I want to kind of, in case this goes wrong, ruin something. So we're going to find a scrap painting and we're just going to experiment to see if we can get the effect of an old master painting. So yeah, this is going to be a fun experiment to see if we can create a certain effect with varnishes, which I haven't experimented with before. So let's bring you along for the ride. I forgot to say as well, I do have a matte varnish here. This is one of Michael Harding's, but it almost looks solid. You actually have to heat it up and then it gets thin and you can just apply it straight on the canvas. There are also sprays of varnish which you can just spray on, the wonders of the modern world. But I didn't want you to get it confused with glaze mediums, which we did mention in the episode of mediums we did a few weeks ago. These are mainly for when you're doing the fine details and thin transparent layers of oil painting, usually towards the end of a painting. You can use them for varnishing, but these are glaze mediums, so it'll give you a nice shine, but it won't protect the canvas as much as doing a varnish layer like this will. So it can get quite confusing, which is why I think I just wanted to go through everything in this way. So first of all, I'm just gonna clean the surface because there's a lot of dust on this one because we did paint it in the summer. So I'm just making sure that there's no specks of dirt that will get caught up in the varnish and stuck to the painting forever, which is actually harder than it looks. You might even need tweezers.
Also kind of needs to re-stretch, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just a practice, like, you know, it's nothing. It's just to show everyone on Art Life. Okay, so I've got my Dammar picture varnish. Wait, yes. So, 1 part. About there. 1 part stand oil. Sun-thickened oil is actually even better if you've got any of that. But I don't, so. 1 part. One of those awful cooks that just does it all by eye.
Awful or master?
Maestro. Okay, so now we need 5 parts terps. Now, this terps is actually loaned to me from my sister in a rather circumspect cloudy jam jar, so this might be dreadful. I just don't use terps anymore because of the smell. Okay, so that's 5 parts. I'm just going to mix it with a brush, just to... Okay, so that's give us a really thin, glossy coat. Now, I'll do about 3 coats of the varnish, but you can just see the shine that you get immediately. So, let's do this. Ready? Now you want to do this in even lines, thinly. So you can see as the terps is going to evaporate, we're going to be left with this beautiful shine. And it just, with the terps, it just really glides over the canvas. Any air bubbles. Just very even, thin layer. Now it's really important as well to do this on a flat surface, so if you're doing it on a vertical surface, obviously all of the varnish is just going to dribble down because of gravity. So we'll leave this now flat until it's completely dry, and it's nice to know that my painting is now slightly more protected. So I made slightly too much varnish for Art Life, wanting to make sure I had enough for the demo, so I'm going to actually varnish something else. I found an old painting from my old body of work as a student, which I called Nymph Infested Waters. It was part of a very abstract series, kind of studies of lagoons, so I always wanted to varnish it, and I think now is the perfect time. Also, this is on board, not canvas, so I feel like it should act slightly differently. There's a lot of texture on this painting as well, so I feel like it'll pick up all the brush strokes in a really beautiful way. Always take off the paint as well. Can you see the difference? So there's some amazing videos on like Instagram and stuff where artists like pour varnish straight onto a painting and it like looks like a puddle of, I don't know, luminosity. Magic. I could watch those videos all day. Very fast drying as well, so so we found a beautiful painting. Well, we found a beautiful frame. The painting inside, maybe not so much, but we are going to use this painting with the experiment for the cracking varnish. So as an antique, it has not been wasted. We have the aging varnish here, which we'll use first. We'll then let this dry for 1 hour and then apply the cracking varnish and leave this to dry for 8. And hopefully by the end of it, this painting, which might be maybe 50 years old, will look 200 years old, if not more. Aging varnish.
Can you use your other hand?
So yeah, it just says pour straight on. You need to heat it up first. Oh, no, maybe not. So it's basically going to give the yellow effect of old varnish, which makes sense because all old paintings do look quite brown and yellow. That's the ravages of time. So it's like Botox in reverse, this process for paintings. It's actually quite a nice varnish. Makes something look kind of richer. It says to a thin layer, so I think maybe slightly more, and then we'll leave it for an hour because everything, it doesn't need to be too thick, but it just oh gosh, we don't know what we're doing. Someone might be watching this who knows what they're doing and be like, what are you doing?
That's what this is all about.
No, I ain't no expert. So stubborn. Okay, that's a very thin layer, so if anything, we've made this painting look better. Okay, so we'll leave that for an hour and then come back to it. Okay, so it's tacky, not quite dry, which is what the instructions said to kind of use it at this stage. And now we're going to add the cracking varnish. So it literally just says apply. So I'm just gonna like dribble that on and like just smooth it over. Oh, it smells, it smells really bad. Oh. What? Oh man. Yuck. Okay, so we're just doing a thin layer. We're going to leave it for 9 hours. So I'll leave it overnight. And I'll come back to it in the morning and see what it looks like. Okay, so it's like midnight. I completely forgot to come and check on the glaze, so I thought we could just see how it's doing. It's been 9 hours and the corner looks, you can't see from here, but I'll give you a close up. The corner looks great. It looks really cracked. It's got like a lovely subtle, it's not like completely, you know, like a desert. It has this just like subtle aging effect. The rest of it though looks just really, really shiny. I don't think I added nearly enough of the cracking varnish and the aging glaze. I think I was just a bit too cautious. You can see there, sorry, it's upside down. You can see there it's got an amazing shine. Like it just looks kind of really super glossy. Not a total waste, but I think next time I'll just really vamp up how much of the quantity of the mediums I'm using. But this is the thing, it's all an experiment. And hey ho, if I ever want to do like a really old looking antique master painting, I could try these glazes again and have another go. But for now, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I think it's time for bed. But yeah, not bad. So thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Art Life. I hope you have enjoyed this little window into my varnishing practice. I'll leave in the notes below as well my recipe, which I use for my Dammar glaze. And yes, any comments below would be amazing. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at JessOliveArt in the week if you can't wait until next Monday for the next episode. So until then, I will see you next time. Thanks guys, bye.